Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I'd like to ask the Minister for Health and Social Care who the final signatory is for Department business cases.
I call on the Minister for Health and Social Care to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. As I'm sure the Honourable Member for Onchan will be aware, Section 3, Subsection 1 of the Government Departments Act 1987 provides that the functions of each department shall be exercised by the Minister in the name and on behalf of the department. The functions referred to in the Act can include policy, the provision of statutory responsibilities and services, and stewardship of the budget voted to the department each year by Tynwald Court. It therefore follows that a minister is always ultimately responsible and accountable for what their department does. However, to ensure the smooth running of any organisation, including a department of the Isle of Man Government, it is normal to have in place a system of delegation. In law, the power to have this system in place is given by subsections 2 to 5 of Section 3 of the Government Departments Act 1987. The political members and certain officers of the department are, through the system of delegation and subject to the particular limitations associated with their personal delegation, able to take certain decisions without referring to me. Mr Deputy President, as the Honourable Member for Onchan has not provided any detail in a question which might allow me to respond about certain types of business case, the only answer I can give to her is by saying that many people in the Department of Health and Social Care may be final signatories to business cases. It would depend and be in accordance with the level of authority set out in their personal delegation.
Supplementary question, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I'd just like to ask the Minister, obviously the case that I was particularly concerned about was the endoscopy suite, and I just wonder what clinical input goes into that final process in the business case. Obviously there's clinical input, but who will have signed that particular business case, or what the process is if there's clinical recommendations and perhaps they're not followed through at the final stages with the business case?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. In relation to it, when the member refers to the endoscopy suite, there's been several changes with the endoscopy suite, so perhaps in another supplementary give me some clarity about which particular one she's referring to. In relation to a business case such as that, you would expect that the business case itself was drawn up initially at a medical level, and then it will go through the various checks and balances. So, for instance, in a business case such as that, you would expect for the medical director to be involved, you would expect for the people running the service to be involved, and then ultimately, depending upon what the business case is, and again, where it falls within the delegations, it would then be either approved and signed off ultimately by either myself or the Chief Executive of the Department.
Supplementary question, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I wonder if the Minister would be able to circulate that particular most recent report that we've talked about in this Honourable Court to members, the business case that was put forward.
Minister to reply.
Again, Mr Deputy President, I'm not particularly clear on which business case the Honourable Member is referring to.
Another opportunity, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Obviously, the Minister is very aware that we've all discussed the most recent case that's been in the press with regards to the endoscopy suite, with regards to the clinical recommendations that were taken forward and perhaps were not taken on board. And there was a business case for that. Perhaps if the Minister agrees, if I email him the actual details, would he then circulate to the Honourable Court?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I think if this is what I think the Honourable Member is referring to, I've already answered this, which is in relation to the fact that there was a case in terms of endoscopy and going forward, where several options were laid forward to the Department. We've taken up one of the options, so it's not a case of business cases being dismissed. We've taken up one of the options, which was for them to apply for the service to apply for JAG accreditation, and that's going forward this year.
Final supplementary, Ms Edge.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Obviously, if the Minister will agree, I will email him separately on this, but my concern is that some decisions are perhaps getting taken and business cases signed off, and I just want some clarity on that as to whether a financial decision has been taken in this particular case or whether it was done on other guidance. It's really who's got that final signature in this particular case.
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I'm happy to confirm if it's the case that I think the Honourable Member is referring to, and she hasn't indicated it's not. The ultimate decision rested with me as Minister.